Hello, today we're going to be looking at lesson 1.08, day 2 on linear combination with multiplication. So before we get started, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, did you watch the recording for lesson 1.07? The next thing is, did you watch the recording for lesson 1.08, day 1? If you answer no to either of these questions, you are not ready for today's lesson or quiz. You do not take today's quiz until you have watched both 1.07 and 1.08 day 1. You cannot expect to do well on a quiz if we didn't even learn how to do the problems. So in order to be able to work on today's quiz, and today we're going to be going through those light quiz questions, you need to know how to do the problems first. So go ahead, you can stop this recording and you can watch 1.07 and 1.08 day 1, and then you can always come back to this recording once you get to it. If you did watch both 1.07 and 1.08 day 1, then what you want to do now is go ahead and open up your 1.08 quiz. What we're doing today, since we already learned the lesson for 1.08 in days 1 lesson, is we are just going to be going through our like quiz questions. So between each quiz question, you can always pause the recording and do the real quiz question. Just a real quick refresher on how to get to today's quiz or any quiz in general. If you go to the content at the top, and then you want to go to Unit 1, Systems of Equations, and we are in 1.08, Linear Combination with Multiplication, and then the quiz is under Assessment. So content, click on the unit, Systems of Equations, click on the lesson 1.08, Linear Combination with Multiplication, click on Assessment, and then lastly, you click on 1.08 Quiz in blue. You can also access it through the class plan. You can get to the quiz directly that way as well. Once you are at the quiz, you just click on Start, and then you can select the next problems by clicking on the arrow. Once you're done with all 5 questions, make sure you click the arrow one last time until you hit Submit. So if you answered all 5 questions, you're good to go. Hit Submit. If you left any questions blank, it will let you know. So then you just hit cancel and you go back to that question and you finish that question. So just a quick review of our learning objectives for today from 1.08 is to justify the linear combination method and then to solve a systems of 2 linear equations in 2 variables using the linear combination method with multiplication. So on your quiz, a couple things before we get started with that. You may have to multiply one equation to help a variable eliminate. So remember, with linear combination, our ultimate goal is to eliminate a variable so we only are left with one variable that we can solve for. You also may have to multiply both equations to help a variable eliminate. So sometimes you might only need to do one, sometimes you might need to do both. Look for common multiples. And lastly, don't forget, if you multiply one part of the equation by a number, you have to multiply all parts of the equation by that same number. For like quiz question number 1, we want to use the linear combination method to solve the systems of equations. So what we have here is we have 3x plus 4y is equal to 18. And then we have negative 2x plus 4y is equal to 8. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure all our terms are aligned. So we want to make sure all the x's are lined up on top of each other, the y's are lined on top of each other, and then equals our constants. So this is all aligned. They're both in standard form. So now that we have that, we're going to move on to step 2. And to step 2, what we want to do is we want to combine the equations by combining like terms or adding down. And we want to see, does anything get eliminated? If we do that here, so if we try and just add down, nothing's going to get eliminated. What we would get is this would be x and this would be plus 8y. The whole goal of linear combination is to eliminate one of the variables. So what this tells us is that we need to manipulate one of the equations to make it so we can eliminate one of the variables. When I look at the y's, notice we have positive 4y here. If one of those was negative, then that means that we would eliminate one of the variables. We would eliminate the y. So we can't just make that one negative and not do anything to anything else. But what we can do is we can multiply the whole equation, and you can either do the top or the bottom. I'm just going to do the bottom here, by a negative 1. So what we have, we still have our first equation, which is 3x plus 4y equals 18. And now our bottom equation, we have to distribute that negative 1 through to all the terms, and we're going to get positive 2x now minus 4y equals negative 8. Now that we do that, we can add straight down. We can add our two equations straight down. 3x plus 2x gives us 5x. 4y plus negative 4y gives us 0y equals 18 plus negative 8, or 18 minus 8 is 10. So our y's canceled out there. And now we're just left with 5x is equal to negative 10. So step 3 is we just simplify and solve for the variable that is left. Remember, we always want one variable to eliminate, one variable to disappear. So now in order to get the x by itself, divide both sides by 5, and we're going to get x is equal to 2. Now that we know what one of the variables is, we can substitute it into either of the original equations to get the other variable and solve. So we'll go back to the very original equations up here, and we can choose to either substitute it into the top one or the bottom one. Either one will give us the same solution for y. So for this, let's go ahead I'm going to do the bottom one because the numbers are slightly smaller. That's the only reason why. So we have negative 2 times 2, because that's what x was. So negative 2 times 2 plus 4y equals 8. And now we just simplify and solve for y. Negative 2 times 2 gives us negative 4 plus 4y equals 8. From here, we need to add 4 to both sides of the equal sign. So we have 4y is equal to 12. And then from here, divide both sides by 4. So y is equal to 3. Now the last thing we just need to do is write our solution as an ordered pair. So 2, 3. And that's our solution. And what we can do for step 6 is we can check our solution by substituting the ordered pair back into both equations to make sure we get a true statement. So we can always plug them back into both equations, and if they're both true, we know we were correct. So now go do your real quiz question number 1. You can go ahead and just pause this recording to take your quiz question number 1. Don't mix up the equations from the example, from the like quiz question, and the real quiz. So make sure, double check you are using the correct problem. So you can follow using the like quiz question, but make sure you're using your numbers from your quiz. Once you're done, go ahead and start the recording again, and we'll get to light quiz question number 2. Light quiz question number 2 and number 3 we're going to cover with this example here. Just a quick note for quiz question number 2, that's going to be a multiple choice answer when you're doing it. And for quiz question number 3, you are actually going to type in the answers. So you just type in the numbers. You're not going to put the parentheses or the comma. You'll just put in the x value for 1 and whatever the y value is for 2. Okay, so looking at this problem, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use linear combination to solve the systems of equations. The first thing we want to do, step 1, is make sure all the terms are aligned. And in this case, instead of using the letters x and y, they're using the letters d and e. It's the same thing, and d is going to come first before E, since D comes before E in the alphabet. So we'll just have to remember that. It's going to be in the D, comma, E format. So all our D's are lined up, all of our E's are lined up, equals our constants. So we are good to go. Now what we want to do is just combine the equations by adding down and see if anything eliminates. This one's nice because when we add them straight down, we're going to see something nice happen. Unlike quiz question number 1 where we had to change it a little bit. So d plus 5d is 6d. Negative 2e plus 2e, those cancel out. That gives us 0. So we eliminated. We didn't have to manipulate the equation at all. Is equal to negative 19 plus 1 is negative 18. From here, we need to solve for d. So divide both sides by 6. We get d is equal to negative 3. Now from here, we are now on step 4. We are going to substitute our d into either of the original equations. Either of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one. And we are going to simplify to get our other variable. So for this one, let's go ahead and just do the top one. So for d, we make it negative 3 minus 2e is equal to negative 19. From here, we need to add 3 to both sides of the equal sign. So we have negative 2e is equal to negative 16. Divide both sides by negative 2. So we have e is equal to positive 8. So thinking of that as an ordered pair, it's going to be negative 3, 8. And once again, if you're doing quiz question number 2, that one's going to be multiple choice. If you're on quiz question number 3, you're going to enter in just the values of your ordered pair. So if you were entering that in, it would be negative 3 in the first box and 8 in the second box. Now, go ahead and pause the recording and do real quiz question number 2 and number 3. Once again, don't mix up the equations with the like quiz question and your real quiz. So make sure you're using the correct problem. Once you've finished both number 2 and number 3, you can start the recording again and watch for like quiz question number 4. Let's go ahead and look at like quiz question number 4. We're going to look at 2 different versions of like quiz question number 4. So the first one we have 2x plus y is equal to 3. And then the second one we have negative x plus 3y is equal to negative 12. So if we try, first thing we want to do, make sure all terms are aligned. So all the x's are lined up, y's are lined up, equals our constants. So we are good to go on that. Next thing we want to do is see if we can eliminate any of the variables just by adding straight down. And if we try that, we'll see that we can't do that. But if we try it real quick, 2x minus x is x, plus that gives us 4y equals negative 9. None of the variables are eliminated, so that means we need to manipulate one of the equations by multiplying either one or both of the equations to eliminate a term. So we have some choices here. We could choose to eliminate the x, or we could choose to eliminate the y. I want to eliminate the x, and the reason why I want to do that is because I already noticed that one of them is positive and one of them is negative. If we multiply the bottom equation by a positive 2, what that's going to give us, so on the top we have 2x plus y is equal to 3. And on the bottom, now we have negative 2x plus 6y is equal to negative 24. So remember, we just distribute that 2 to every term in our second equation. And now what we can do is we can add straight down, and we see that the x's eliminate, the x's disappear. Now if we add y plus 6y, that gives us 7y is equal to 3 plus negative 24 is going to give us negative 21. We divide both sides by 7. We'll get y is equal to negative 3. Now we are moving on to step 4, and we need to substitute y into either one of the original equations. You could do it at the top or you could do it at the bottom. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and just do it on the top. And we'll get 2x plus negative 3 is equal to 3. This is the same thing as 2x minus 3 equals 3. Now we add 3 to both sides of the equal sign. We get 2x is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 2, and we get x is equal to 3. So now we want to write that as an ordered pair. Remember, your x value comes first, so positive 3 comma negative 3. And when you are taking this for quiz question number 4, you're entering your answer in the boxes. So you're only entering the numbers, not the parentheses or the comma. So that's it for the first version for like quiz question number 4. Remember, when you're working with these, you do have a choice on some of the parts. When you are trying to figure out which term you want to eliminate first, up here, I chose to eliminate the x first because I thought that it would make sense. We could also choose to eliminate the y first, and we would have multiplied the top equation by negative 3. Either way, in the end, you still should get the same solution. Let's now look at version 2 of like quiz question number 4. So we're still using linear combination. We're going to be doing the same thing. We want to make sure all terms are aligned, which they are. If we try and add straight down, we'll notice that nothing gets eliminated. So what we need to do is we need to multiply one or both equations to help eliminate a term. So this question, we're going to have to multiply both equations in order to help us eliminate the term. So what we need to do is we want to decide, do we want to eliminate the x's or the y's first? For this particular question, it doesn't matter which one, not one. One of them is not easier than doing the other. So let's go ahead and let's just do the x's. So if we look here, we have 3x and 5x. We can't just multiply one of those to help us eliminate. So we're going to have to multiply both of the equations. So when we're thinking about 3 and 5 and our multiples of 3 and 5, the first number that both of those go into is 15. So that's what we need to make our x's. We want one of them to be positive 15. We want one of them to be negative 15. So what we can do is let's go ahead and multiply the top one by positive 5, because that's going to give us a 15x. and multiply the bottom one by negative 3, because that'll give us negative 15x. Now we distribute each of those into all the numbers within our equation. So that's going to give us positive 15x minus 10y is equal to 10. And on the bottom, what we're going to get is negative 15x plus 15y is equal to negative 30. Now, if we add our equations straight down, we're going to see we have 15x minus 15x, so those cancel out. We have negative 10y plus 15y, so it's going to give us 5y is equal to 10 plus negative 30, or negative 20. From here, we want to divide both sides by 5, so we get y is equal to negative 4. And now what we can do is we can substitute our y, what y is equal to, in either one of the original equations. Either one of the original equations. So I'm going to choose the top equation just because the numbers are smaller. You could also do the bottom and you get the same solution. So wherever we see y, we'll replace it with negative 4, and then we'll allow us to solve for x. So we have 3x plus 8 is equal to 2. Subtract 8 from both sides of the equal sign, and we get 3x is equal to negative 6. Divide both sides by 3, and we get x is equal to negative 2. So we have negative 2 comma negative 4. Once again, you're just entering your answers in the boxes, so you don't need to include the parentheses or the comma. So you just put negative 2 and then negative 4. So now you can go ahead and pause the recording and do your real quiz question number 4. Remember, it could be like version number 1, where you only had to multiply one of the equations, or it could be like version number 2, where you had to multiply both of the equations. Once you're done with your quiz question, go ahead and start the recording again for number 5. Before we get to quiz question number 5, I want to do a quick fraction buster. If you just hate fractions, then just check this out. I know a lot of you guys look at fractions and go, ah, and want to run away. Fraction Busters clears away the fractions, resulting in an equivalent equation without that fraction. So if we look at this first one here, we have 2/3 x plus 2 is equal to 10. What we could do here is we could multiply everything in our equation by the denominator of our fraction, and we'll see something nice happen. So if we multiply the whole thing by 3, when we distribute the 3 through, what we're going to get is we're going to get 3 times 2 over 3x plus 3 times 2 is 6 is equal to 3 times 10, which is 30. Now notice here we have a 3 divided by 3. Those 3's are going to divide out, and that just leaves us with 2x plus 6 is equal to 30. Now this, even though it looks a little different, it's the same equation as our original equation. We just get rid of the fractions. So if we look at this next one over here, 2/5 x plus 1/5 y is equal to 3/5. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply the whole equation by our denominator, which is 5. So when we do that, we'll have 5 times 2 over 5x plus 5 times 1 over 5y is equal to 5 times 3 over 5. Notice the 5's are going to divide out here, leaving us with 2x plus the 5's divide us out here, leaving us with 1y, or just y, is equal to 5's dividing out here, leaving us with 3. It's the same equation, it just looks a little bit different. So we're going to actually use this fraction buster when we're working with quiz question number 5 to help us out. Okay, so let's look at like quiz question number 5. We're going to do two versions again, just like we did with number 4. And we're going to use linear combination. We have 3 halves x plus 3y equals 6. And we have 3x plus 12y is equal to 6. So see how that top one we have a fraction here? Let's use the fraction buster to help us get rid of that fraction. So if we multiply the whole thing by 2, what we're going to get when we distribute that is we're going to get those 2's will cancel out. So here, let's go ahead and put it down here. So we have 2 times 3 over 2x plus 6y is equal to 6. So now what we have is we have 3x plus 6y is equal to 6. And if we write our other equation underneath it, that's 3x plus 12y is equal to 6. Okay. So now we have our two equations without the fraction. So let's see, can we eliminate anything right away just by adding straight down? And we can't, but if we multiply one of the equations, either one, by a -1, what we'll notice we'll get is so we have 3x plus 6y is equal to 6. And on the bottom equation, we're going to get -3x minus 12y equals -6. We distribute that -1 through, and now we can add straight down. Our x's cancel out. We have 6y plus -12y, which is -6y, is equal to 6 plus -6, which is 0. So now if we divide both sides by -6, we're going to get y is equal to 0. So now what we do is we need to take our y value and we're going to substitute it into any one of the original equations. I'm going to go ahead and do that bottom equation since it didn't have a fraction. So we have 3x plus 12 times 0 is equal to 6. 12 times 0 is 0, so that leaves us with 3x is equal to 6. Dividing both sides by 3, we're going to get x is equal to 2. So writing that as an ordered pair, x comes first, so 2, 0. That's our solution. For number 5, you're also entering the answer in the boxes, so you'll just put 2 and 0. So now let's go ahead and we'll finish up with like quiz question number 5, version 2. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to use linear combination to solve our systems of equations, and we have to use that fraction buster. So for the top equation, what we first need to do is multiply everything by 3. So it's going to give us 3 times 4 over 3x plus 3 times 1 over 3y is equal to 3 times 5 over 3. Notice those 3's cancel out, so we have 4x plus 1y, or we could just put y, is equal to 5. Now our two equations that we have 4x plus y is equal to 5, and 2x minus y is equal to 1. Looking at this, if we add anything straight down, does any of the variables eliminate? And they do. So what we could do is we can just add straight down. 4x plus 2x is 6x. Y plus -y cancels out, is equal to 6. So if we divide both sides by 6, we're going to get x is equal to 1. Okay. Now we need to take our x value and we need to substitute it back into either one of the original equations. And just like that first version, I'm going to do the second equation since that had no fractions. So we have 2 times 1 minus y is equal to 1. Simplifying this, 2 times 1 is 2, minus y is equal to 1. We subtract 2 from both sides of the equal sign. So we have negative y is equal to negative 1. Notice y is not fully by itself just yet. There's a negative 1 multiplied by it, so we multiply or divide both sides by negative 1. And we'll get y is equal to positive 1. So writing that as an ordered pair, just 1 comma 1. You enter it in the boxes and you just put 1 and 1. So now go ahead, pause the recording and do your real quiz question for number 5. Don't forget about the fractions buster. And once you're done, you can go ahead and start the recording again to finish up today's lesson. So what now? We are done with 1.08, so double check your work on your quiz. Make sure you have answered all the questions. Submit your quiz. If you aren't done with your quiz, make sure you finish it now. If you're not ready for the quiz at all, go back and watch the recordings from 1.07 and 1.08 day 1. After practicing, take the quiz. Remember, you get 3 chances, 3 attempts for each quiz. If you have any questions, just let us know. Otherwise, have a wonderful, wonderful day.